Proverbs 19, Phase 1. One better is a poor man who walks in his integrity than he who is perverse in his lips and is a fool. This teaches that integrity is greater than outward condition. Moral character outweighs both wealth and corrupted speech. 2. Also that the soul be without knowledge is not good, and he who hurries with his feet sins. This is saying that desire without understanding leads to wrongdoing. Haste without wisdom results in sin, not just error. 3. The foolishness of man subverts his way, and his heart rages against Yahweh. This reveals that people often ruin themselves through their own choices, yet blame God for the consequences. For wealth adds many friends, but the poor is separated from his friend. This teaches that many relationships are influenced by advantage, exposing the instability of friendship built on gain. 5. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he who utters lies shall not escape. This teaches that deception carries unavoidable judgment. Falsehood cannot ultimately protect itself. 6. Many will entreat the favor of a ruler, and everyone is a friend to a man who gives gifts. This shows that generosity attracts attention and influence, though it also reveals the motives of those who gather around it. All the brothers of the poor hate him. How much more do his friends go far from him? He pursues them with pleas, but they are gone. This reveals the depth of isolation that poverty can bring, exposing the fragility of conditional relationships. 8. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding shall find good. This teaches that pursuing wisdom is an act of self-preservation and life alignment. 9. A false witness shall not be unpunished, and he who utters lies shall perish. This reinforces that repeated deception leads not just to consequence, but ultimately to destruction. 10. Delicate living is not appropriate for a fool, much less for a servant to have rule over princes. This shows that position without wisdom creates disorder. Authority magnifies the damage of foolishness. The discretion of a man makes him slow to anger. It is his glory to overlook an offense. This teaches that restraint is strength. Wisdom chooses peace over reaction. 12. The king's wrath is like the roaring of a lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass. This reveals that authority carries the power to either destroy or refresh, depending on how it is exercised. 13. A foolish son is the calamity of his father. A wife's quarrels are a continual dripping. This teaches that ongoing foolishness and conflict erode peace and stability within the home. 14. House and riches are an inheritance from fathers, but a prudent wife is from Yahweh. This shows that material things may be inherited, but wisdom in relationships is a gift from God. 15. Slothfulness casts into a deep sleep. The idle soul shall suffer hunger. This teaches that laziness produces real consequence. Neglect leads to lack. 16. He who keeps the commandment keeps his soul, but he who is contemptuous in his ways shall die. This reveals that obedience preserves life, while disregard for instruction leads to destruction. 17. He who has pity on the poor lends to Yahweh. He will reward him. This teaches that compassion is seen by God and repaid by him directly. 18. Discipline your son, for there is hope. Don't be a willing party to his death. This shows that correction is necessary for life. Withholding discipline contributes to destruction. 19. A hot-tempered man must pay the penalty, for if you rescue him, you must do it again. This teaches that avoiding consequences enables repeated failure and deeper ruin. 20. Listen to counsel and receive instruction, that you may be wise in your latter end. This reveals that wisdom is built over time through humility and teachability. 21. There are many plans in a man's heart, but Yahweh's counsel will prevail. This teaches that human intention does not override God's purpose. 22. That which makes a man to be desired is his kindness. A poor man is better than a liar. This shows that loyalty and truth define a person's worth more than status or gain. 23. The fear of Yahweh leads to life, then contentment. He rests and will not be touched by trouble. This teaches that reverence for God produces security, peace, and stability. 24. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish and will not so much as bring it to his mouth again. This exposes the extreme nature of laziness when left unchecked. 25. Flog a scoffer, and the simple will learn prudence. Reprove one who has understanding, and he will gain knowledge. This teaches that different people respond differently to correction depending on their heart. 26. He who robs his father and drives away his mother is a son who causes shame and brings reproach. This reveals that dishonoring parents is both morally destructive and socially disgraceful. 27. If you stop listening to instruction, my son, you will stray from the words of knowledge. This warns that wisdom requires consistency. Neglect leads to drift. 28. A corrupt witness mocks justice, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down iniquity. This shows that evil delights in distortion and actively consumes wrongdoing. 29. Penalties are prepared for scoffers and beatings for the backs of fools. This teaches that persistent rejection of wisdom leads to firm and unavoidable correction. Proverbs 19, Phase 2. Historical and cultural anchorings. Proverbs 19 reflects a society where family structure, communal responsibility, and moral accountability shaped daily life. Honor toward parents, discipline of children, and respect for authority were seen as essential to social stability. Poverty was common and often isolating, while wealth attracted attention and influence. Justice depended heavily on truthful witnesses, and false testimony threatened the entire community. The chapter addresses these realities by emphasizing integrity, patience, and reverence for God as the foundations of a well-ordered life. Contemporary continuity. In today's world, Proverbs 19 confronts many of the same pressures: impulsiveness, blame-shifting, superficial relationships, and avoidance of responsibility. Modern culture often celebrates speed, desire, and self-expression, while minimizing patience, correction, and accountability. This chapter reminds us that consequences remain unchanged. Haste still leads to error. Laziness still produces lack. Ignoring wisdom still results in loss. The principles that governed ancient households and communities continue to govern modern lives, whether acknowledged or not. Linguistic anchorings. The Hebrew language in Proverbs 19 repeatedly links action with outcome, reinforcing moral cause and effect. Words translated as fear, discipline, and instruction carry the sense of ordered alignment, rather than punishment alone. The repetition of warnings against false witnesses and fools emphasizes certainty rather than threat. The Veritas 365 rendering preserves these patterns while expressing them in language that communicates naturally to a modern listener without dulling their seriousness. Theological anchorings. This chapter presents God as both observer and participant in human affairs. He opposes deceit, honors generosity, and ultimately directs outcomes beyond human planning. The fear of the Lord is shown as life-giving, bringing security, provision, and stability. Human responsibility is not negated by divine sovereignty. Instead, obedience and humility place a person within God's protective order. Theologically, Proverbs 19 balances personal accountability with trust in God's overarching purpose. Key themes: integrity over advantage, character outweighs wealth or status, consequences of haste and laziness, speed and neglect both invite loss, power of counsel, wisdom grows through listening and correction, justice and truth, falsehood corrodes society and invites judgment, reverence for God, the fear of the Lord anchors life in stability, responsibility within relationships, family honor and discipline shape future outcomes. Closing thought: Proverbs 19 teaches that wisdom is neither impulsive nor passive. It listens, restrains, disciplines, and trusts God's direction even when outcomes are delayed. The chapter challenges the modern urge to rush, excuse, and deflect responsibility, calling instead for integrity, patience, and reverence. A life ordered by wisdom may not always be easy, but it is consistently secure. Reflection prompts. Where might haste be replacing discernment in your decisions? Are there areas where responsibility is being avoided rather than embraced? How do you respond to correction, defensively or with humility? In what ways can reverence for God bring greater stability to your daily life?